Hello, everybody. Hello, world. I'm Naomi. This is Stephen. We are the live reality games recap podcast for Survivor Maryland. It is a lovely Saturday afternoon, and we're here to talk about episode 10 of Survivor Maryland Major Conflict. Stephen, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty fantastic. It's the semester's ending. I only have like 4 classes left to teach my students everything they need to know about the alternative minimum tax, which I'm sure they're just as enthused about as I am.
Yeah.
But taxes aside, I think there's a more fun issue we need to talk about. Before we get into the meat of this episode and we eulogize Amanda, can we talk about the merged tribe name? Because we didn't talk about last episode. We need to talk about Zachu.
What the absolute fuck is the chew? I don't understand it, and I won't respond to it.
Well, I mean, like they're all standing around, kind of like let's like throw out sounds and try to come up with some like really like not a real world that has kind of a mystique sound to it, and somehow they got Zachu. It's like someone sneezes, like yes, that's it. That is the name for our tribe. Darn it.
I mean, like overall, it's not in like the worst Survivor College tribe names. I have to say, like even Furiosa and Cerulean are still some of the more heinous names.
I like
But
Furiosa.
I like Furiosa to an extent, but it's so like, oh god, it's so like, hey, Mad Max just came out, like it makes it is pretty funny, but like there are some heinous ones. Survivor Michigan had Ohana, which I was like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
We all like Disney.
I mean,
But, yeah.
if you don't know what to do, because both teams came up with their original names for their tribes, I'm like, yeah, these are fine. These are acceptable Survivor names. Pascala, I think, is a better name than Chikasha, but whatever. If you never know what to do, just go the portmanteau route and slam the two tribe names together and come out with a monstrosity, and that is fully acceptable.
You know what? I'm gonna send Josh a message right now and ask him where the fuck that shoe came from.
Well, it was like last episode. They're standing on the circle. They're like throwing out just sounds and putting stuff together, and this is what ended up. This is what happens when we have engineers combined with humanities majors. We get this nonsense apparently.
Um, I have no comment. If I, like Andrew said, he didn't want any more dumb names, then he got Chew. That's like, oh, vey. You tried and you failed. So we're really in the thick of it now because this season is picking up in a way that I like never anticipated. I always thought this like the merge was going to hit and things were going to get wild, and instead they're getting extremely predictable. So I don't know if you saw this coming, but I really thought things were going to like turn on its head as soon as the merge hit, and instead it's been like, a smooth sailing for a lot of people. What have you been feeling?
So I wasn't surprised about the Morgan vote. I was pretty sure the merge was going to be Morgan or Angie. I am more interested in that we are seeing Amanda being outed so quickly. I was really hoping and excited for the storyline of, we saw early on Amanda saying, I'm skeptical of Sadie. I see her as doing all these things. I see her doing the strategy and whatnot. That's something I want to do. So I think I need to take her out at some point. I'm like, okay, we're going to get this great moment in the series where Amanda's able to bring people together and blindside Sadie. That doesn't end up happening. We see that her plans to get out Sadie are leaked via Josh, or like in the first merge episode, and in this episode it all comes to a head, and she can't escape people wanting to vote her out.
I feel bad for Amanda because I really think what happened here is everybody voted out Morgan, and then Morgan was like, well, Amanda, you betrayed us, and everyone was like, Amanda?
I don't think that has anything to do with this. I don't think, like, I know there was some talk about like, oh, like Morgan put such a target on Amanda based off everything that happened at last episode, but I don't think that had anything to do with this. I think it all came to Sadie learning that, oh, Amanda actually is starting the gun for me. I need to nip this in the bud.
Well, I think that's true, but I think also part of why Morgan went after Amanda is in the previous episode is because she heard that rumor.
Yeah, because she knew that Amanda was the weak link.
Right. So, but I think Morgan sort of vocalizing what everybody had been thinking gets the wheels a turning and gets everybody to say, well, Amanda is not me. I can vote out Amanda, and then it just kind of happens. I don't think it's the crux of why it happens, but I think it's a great method for getting everybody on the same page. It just sucks for Amanda.
Last episode, there was a discussion of the easy vote versus the smart vote, where it's like, well, Morgan's the easy vote, but is Morgan a smart vote? And for Doug, for Sadie, for Santi, you can say, yeah, Morgan is not only the easy vote, she's the smart vote, right? And the question was really for Dane, Tim, and Amanda, is she the smart vote? And the answer I'm going to say is, I think from this episode, clearly no, right? Because when you go from 11 people to 10 people, you still need a 6-person majority. And so the question was what that majority was going to look like for Amanda, Dane, and Tim. And the answer is, well, there was simply not going to be a majority. But given that we saw Abby, Angie, and Morgan all vote together prior episode, clearly, like Dane, Tim, and Amanda maybe could have linked up with those 3 to swing things their way. However, because we saw Morgan not go to that side at all, like Morgan deliberately ignored Dane, Tim, and Amanda, seeing them as a block of 3, and then campaigned against Amanda. That didn't help that. And I think Amanda was also at that point fine doing the easy vote for one round before trying to set things up from there. Maybe because she assumed she'd be able to swing people that she couldn't.
Yeah, and I think Amanda and Tim to an extent too, even though Tim really talks early on about losing Amanda. Tim and Amanda really thought that they were going to be protected by sort of Santi's power, right? They thought that the way that Santi would keep them safe would just be by picking up all of the outsiders before them. But I think Amanda going after Sadie was such a verbal mistake that you can't ignore it. Like, and I know Amanda talked about how she regrets talking to Josh at the party because that really kind of set everything in motion. I guess like overall, I just feel bad because I think that they could have linked up. There's this big group of outsiders that Sadie linked up with, to an extent, right? You have Delaram and Abby with Sadie, and then you have Angie just trying her best, but she's with Santi to an extent, and so this group of outsiders like found a place, found a home. And it's not with Dane, Amanda, and Tim. And that's
I don't think Angie has a home. I think Angie is just thrilled to hear she's not being targeted, even when she can't be voted out. Right? I think if all the players, Angie is simply in a survive week by week basis, which how can you blame her for that? So when she hears that, hey, they're turning on their own, why would she question or do anything about that? Because she doesn't want people to say like, oh no, look, Angie's now being an issue. Why don't we just turn it back on her?
I think overall, all this can kind of be articulated as like something that I think of as one of my survivor strategies is you need to work with people who will care if you get voted out. And you need to make people care that you'll be voted out because there's like one of my favorite alliances, when I got voted out, everybody was devastated, and that's what I want, people crying when I leave the game. But it just goes to show that like people you want them to do well even after you leave the game, but you want people to be willing to snake around and find cracks and do whatever to keep you in the game. I mean, that's essentially what Eric was to Delaram, right? Eric worked his ass off to keep Delaram in the game. And to an extent keep Dane in the game as well.
Which was not reciprocated.
Right, exactly. And, if you're Dane and Delaram, you should be... And they kind of talk about it, like Sadie talks about it, right, to Doug, and then Doug is like, why do you care so much about Eric? You want to work with somebody like Eric who cares that you'll be voted out and will do things to keep you in the game. And I think that the problem that Amanda and Tim and Dane have right now is that everybody who likes them or wants to work with them has a lot more people that they care about over. We talked about the hierarchy so many times, but like that's the core of it. You want people who want to keep you in the game, and they don't have that anymore.
So can we let's go back and deconstruct Amanda's full game a bit.
Let's do it.
To kind of get to how she got here and what she could have been doing or should have been doing. We see Amanda start off the game and she locks in this group of 4 with Doug, Chris, and Tim. They're like the South Campus Dormitory Alliance. And beyond that, we don't see her make any real connections with other players on that tribe. She kind of gets her core alliance together and she sticks with them, which is great, especially when like that core alliance was running the show. But unfortunately for her, she's not in that South Campus. She's not in that Pascala 6, right? She's on the edge and continually kind of being the target because of that, but she shielded thanks to her connections with Doug, Chris, and Tim.
I think Amanda actually made a decent move in not working with Eric. I think her big move, like we talked about, is her big regret is not getting rid of Santi. But I think she talked about it in her recap with Anders. There's a lot of factors that went into why she didn't trust the girls, why she didn't trust Liam fully. But like even like the Dane, so like lying to Teresa and saying she voted for Dane gets back to Dane, and then Dane doesn't trust her. Like there are all these things that kind of like butterfly effect outwards negatively for Amanda. Whereas you can see in a lot of College Survivor, people will usually have positive butterfly effects, or people will, you know, things will work out for them, luckily, or a lie will not have repercussions. And I think for Amanda, just like everything she did had repercussions that negatively affected her.
Yeah, I think Amanda was doing the best at the merge, because the merge put her in a situation where she had tight bonds with Doug, but no one really else. And this was a chance for her to, and she seemed to really make new alliances with Dane and with Tim as a result, which is pretty important,
right?
And really helped her out. I think that hindsight being 2020, her most optimal move would have been to side with the girls and force the vote on Santi and get him out.
Yep.
Weaken Doug, make Doug have to value her more, as well as taking out an original Chakasha member. I think all of that would have been more fortuitous for a game going forward, but that's like, because we have perfect vision of what she should have done now. That's like, I don't think we would have figured that out looking back.
Yeah, and I think like another thing is, and I think a lot of the community who definitely doesn't watch this or listen to this, but should take this into account, should really recognize that like these people don't play a lot of live reality games outside of this. They've probably never played Survivor before. I think people are being really mean to Amanda. I think people are being really harsh to her in a situation where I think Amanda was playing just as comfortably as everybody else has been playing. She's just one of the people who got from it, you know? Like, I think Dane, you could say the same thing about Dane, right?
Yeah.
Dane doesn't want to work with anybody outside of who he's been working with. He cuts Eric, somebody who works really, who cares a ton about him, and then is sitting comfortably and is not making a lot of moves, right? Post-merge. It's the same thing. It's just that Amanda happened to get a lot of heat on her for trying to make a move. And in many ways, we were saying that Amanda is very much like a Kellen, but Amanda almost becomes a Desiree in this situation where she decides to make the move and then it backfires on her.
Yeah, I think we could see. So we've been comparing the season to Ghost Island. I think Desiree is probably the better description here, and I think Josh now might be our Kellen, where Josh has been set up in this episode kind of wanting to make a flip at a certain point, but might just be too late. But getting back to our full discussion of Amanda, right?
Yes.
I think the things I think she probably wishes, and I think we wish, is that she had capitalized more on working with the girls, even once she kind of betrayed them, to kind of repair that relationship. We don't see that.
Nope.
She comes in the merge, and I think she's in a decent place in the merge where she's buffered by Angie, Abby, Morgan. All right, I think we both agree that she's probably more closer on the edge of her alliance of 8 than maybe that she'd wanted. But there could be a good chance for her to swing things around on Sadie. What ends up killing her game is that she trusts Josh enough. She tells him this plan because in her mind, and Amanda's savvy. She knows Survivor. She's like, I feel like I'm on the bottom. I think Josh is definitely in the bottom. We need to look at these big players and we need to take them out. Unfortunately, Josh doesn't show that concern as of yet. I think if Amanda had kept that plan secret, waited till maybe final 8, I think she could definitely have swung Josh around then. The question is, could she have swung other people? Don't know, but I think Josh would have been much more open to that at later on in the game. But I think at that early point, Josh is looking at, how do I cement myself in this Doug, Sadie, Santi alliance? I need to push out these other members. Let's bust Amanda. And in fact, Josh even said, I would have lied about it even if we never had that conversation.
Exactly. And that's exactly why I think people are kind of being a little too hard on Amanda. Like, Josh is making sort of a counter move against Amanda, and like we can't be so negative on her when there are people working actively against her to get her out or to sabotage her game, and she doesn't really know it. Like, you know, part of why Doug and Santi have been doing so well is because people aren't trying to sabotage them.
Yeah.
People aren't trying to destroy their game.
People are scared of the power they have in the game.
Right. And you know, the one place where it could have happened is when Santi could have gone home in the swap. And that was really the crux was on Amanda. And to a larger extent, Santi probably would have seen that coming, and he worked very hard to stop the sabotage.
So that's why he jumped ship to the Pascala minority in order to save himself from our favorite Jam Alliance from taking out Dane and him.
Exactly. And so like
rest in peace.
So when we look at like Amanda, all of these people don't realize that they're being sabotaged, right? Although Amanda eventually realizes that everybody's going to vote her out, I don't think she realizes how actively certain people were sabotaging her. And that's hard to do. It's hard to do when you don't see them all the time, when you don't spend all your time with them. I actually think it's interesting. This is one of the college survivors where I feel like I've seen the least conversations. Like if you watch Survivor Maryland, they'll be in like 20 different locations having conversations. Or sorry, Survivor Maryland All-Stars is what I meant to say. Like they'll be like in a Taco Bell, in a car, in a dorm. They are all over the place. And this one, I think the conversations are happening, but it's just like, okay, we're in my dorm. Okay, we're in my dorm. And it's maybe like 10 compared to like 30 of All-Stars. And I think that just goes to show, Amanda said it a little bit, that they're just not spending enough time talking to one another, except for Doug and Santi, who get a lot of time to talk to each other and a lot of time with Doug with other people we see.
Yeah, I think Amanda's weakness in her game is, I think, her social game. I think there's people that if she had reached out to and capitalized on, that really could have paid dividends later on. But I think Amanda showed a lot of savvy in a lot of different ways. I love when she refused to give Doug the idol clue that Doug ferreted out from Josh and Santi anyways to find idols. I love that she did these things that showed that she knew what she was up to and what she was doing, and she had the right plan in mind, saying, I need to rally people against these other players. It was just at the end of the day, is a timing issue. And I even loved this episode where she's like, well, if I can't vote Sadie, let's take out Dollar, let's go for like one of her pawns and try to weave this narrative of Sadie is gonna walk to the end with Abby and Delaram, which was very funky that we never heard Sadie, Delaram, or Abby's take on this, but we hear a lot of other people talking about this potential threesome.
Yeah, this is one of those, you know, like we don't have the footage things, which I understand. But it was really funny to hear everybody be like, Sadie, Delaram, and Abby, they're such a tight alliance. And I was like, I have seen absolutely no
You
proof.
tell me.
But okay. Yeah, and on top of that, I think Amanda makes the right call of targeting Delaram. I think she could have maybe gotten a little more traction with Abby.
I think so too.
Yeah, but targeting Delaram isn't the worst idea in the world.
Because it's hard, right? Because, okay, so if you target Delaram or Abby, so immediately you have Sadie, Delaram, and Abby as a 3. Josh is working against Amanda, so that's 4. So you have to pull all remaining players to your side, which in this case, she has Dane and Tim, but she also needs to get Santi, Doug, and Angie, which seeing Santi and Doug in a swing position was such an interesting shock this episode. I never expected that. And honestly, I think Doug is probably releasing the vote at Delaram, and I think if you flipped on Abby, I think you'd have now Angie and Santi releasing the vote for her, even though like Doug would probably be like, yeah, I'll take out Abby. I have no problems with that.
Exactly. Like Doug would have been into it, and then everybody else kind of wouldn't have been. You know, it's like a really tricky spot. I'm sure Amanda had her reasons for targeting Delaram, and I think on top of all of this, I think Tim had a lot of influence on how Amanda's game went this episode. I think Tim, not intentionally, but Tim was just being Tim, and I think that people were looking at what Tim was saying, right? Tim has all these conversations and blah, blah, blah. And like, if Tim came up to me and was like, yeah, so like, I really think that like, we're really strong and blah, 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 and just talked, I'd be like, do I want to do what Tim wants to do? And I don't think I would have wanted to do what Tim wants to do. That isn't to say that he wasn't like trying very hard. I thought he was doing a good job of trying. But at the same time, I just felt like watching Tim, I was like, Tim is not integrating himself like Josh has, right?
Yeah.
Tim is making himself a target. Tim is putting the target on his back. And in the proxy war, Amanda is a proxy for Tim. So, if Tim has a target on his back, we know that weakening Tim involves taking out Amanda, and therefore we'd like to do it. I just think like Tim needed to chill the F out this episode, and he did not.
Well, I saw, because my thought on seeing Tim's episode was him trying to position himself for a game without Amanda. It was a lot of trying to see where he fits in the pieces. This season is kind of shaping up to be a weird blood versus water season in a way, where we have these two blood pairs, right? We have Doug and Santi, and we have Abby and Dalaram. They're not turning on each other. They're fine rolling with each other to the end, right? And I think going forward, players really need to be very concerned about these kind of roommate relationships and what it does, because like friends, I think we've seen in All Stars, I think friends will vote each other out if need be. I think roommates are probably much less likely to. We've had roommates in the past. I should have really tracked who were the roommates in the previous seasons, but I think Abby and Dalaram end up being this really weird rock and hard place situation where like they should be a swing, right? They should be some sort of swing vote between the Sadie, Josh, Doug, and Santi alliance versus the other four. But they're just because they're so firmly in apparently Sadie's camp, you're like, oh shoot, that's unless like we see a wake up call for them in like the final 7, final 6, you're like, okay, now let's do things. That's really gonna stifle things.
And I think so this is a sort of a long way of getting here, but I think another thing that Amanda does correctly is realize that Sadie is the target, because Doug and Santi are kind of untouchable at this point. Dalaram and Abby, here's what's going to happen. I bet this will happen. I don't want it to, but I bet it will. Dalaram, Abby, Sadie, Doug, and Santi will make final 5, right? Because that to me is what I think Doug and Santi want to do, is take Sadie. But Sadie has this power lined up, and she can eliminate Doug and Santi. Well, I think this is like weird.
I think that Santi and Doug are going to be aware of that and are not going to let Dalaram and Abby sit together at the final 5. I think one's going to get their wing clipped at the final 6, surprisingly, especially with Doug having 2 idols.
Sure. This is all to say that if they end up in that situation, Sadie has the power. And Amanda is correct in saying Doug and Santi have a little bit of power, but 3 is more powerful than 2.
Yeah.
And so you got to take out the head of the snake. You got to get Sadie out. And I don't there are a lot of factors going forward and a lot of vote outs to be had. But I just think that if they're not careful, Sadie's going to get towards the end with Dalaram and Abby. And then she's going to have General Grievous, 4 swinging lightsabers at the same time, and you're gonna be like, oh shit.
What I love about Survivor is when that one person needs to win immunity and Sadie pulled it off, because this has been a very different episode if Sadie was actually exposed, and we might have seen murmurings of, oh, let's actually take out one of the 3 juggernauts of the Smurge tribe.
Exactly. If there had been any sort of rumblings about the idea that you could vote out, but potentially vote out Sadie, this episode could have even been a split down the line, because that's a situation where, because Doug essentially, it's funny. I think Doug essentially got to make the call here in the challenge, right? And he gives Sadie immunity because Doug does not want to have to show his cards with Amanda versus Sadie. Because that, let's say he votes with Sadie and Sadie goes home. Then you have a pissed off Amanda and Tim. Or in just life, you have a pissed off Amanda and Tim. Or now you have a pissed off Tim in this situation. Or he's not terribly pissed off, but at least he knows that, this happened. And you have to show your cards a little bit more. And so I thought it was very funny that Doug very calculatingly was like, Sadie, please take this immunity. Here you go, take it. Also, somebody on the YouTube commented, I thought it was interesting, and now I'm blanking on it. What did they say? Oh no, where'd it go? I guess I have to go to the YouTube now. I remembered it, and I was like, oh, this is a good point, and then I forgot it immediately.
I mean, I think what's interesting, so do you want to just talk about the challenge?
Sure.
Yeah, because we're there. So I thought there was a couple interesting things going on the challenge. First, I think touchy subjects, it's rough as an immunity challenge because Angie was never going to win. When you have these kind of like elimination style like challenges, it's just like, oh, the minority can't win it, right? So it's a little bit of like a feeling in the mouth. But on the other hand, you do get it's always fascinating to see, like, are people going to reveal the pecking order? Like, what do people vote as? Like, whose feelings get hurt? And you see Doug and Santi even talking about afterwards saying, oh, this might have been a little too revealing, where it's the final five of Doug, Santi, Abby, Delaram, and Sadie together. And it's like you said, that could be a realistic final five right there. They knocked out everyone else.
And it's funny. This challenge just happened on Survivor New York, the episode that just aired. We did a very similar chop challenge for immunity with touchy subjects, and it kind of worked out in an interesting way. I never thought the person who won would have won, but you very clearly early on saw, who do we not want to be immune? Let's get rid of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's this is a good game to indicate. And why I like doing it in Survivor games, it's a good way to indicate where you are in the tribe.
Yeah, so my first season I played Pirate Survival Expedition 2017. This was the Merge Immunity Challenge. And it was eye-opening for me because I had no idea that Travis Rindler was such a target until that challenge where people were gunning for him and running his name down. I was like, oh, shoot, I totally didn't realize that. And then I had the same situation we saw here where I played Kingmaker. I had the last balloon to pop. And I was out, but I could choose, do I want to give it to person A or person B? I was like, and I gave it to person B to say, hey, I want to work with you. Like, this is why I'm doing this. And say, let's build a relationship here.
And on the flip side, when you hurt somebody's chance in the game, that says a lot about your priorities, right? When you take away somebody's opportunity, you're saying, I don't want you to succeed. I don't want to work with you. And them voting Angie for a lot of things was absolute bullshit. Come on.
Hey, to be fair, I think it's actually valid. I think when, like, there's all these nasty categories for touchy subjects, right?
Yeah.
And you don't really want to vote your allies. You don't want to upset them saying, hey, Santi, I think you're going to lose the game. Like, you don't want to do something like that. So it's very easy to just pile on giving these negative categories to the person most on the out, just because, like, there's less political repercussions. In Realfoot, I just wrote Charity Williams for every single one because I wanted to vote her out next. And I was like, there's no backfire for me doing this because I just want her gone.
I really like Kristen kicked my ass in an org. Shout out to her. That just a couple months ago, it's just how it is. You get your ass kicked in orgs, and oh my god, somebody on Reddit just sent me a message out of nowhere and was like, hey, would you be interested in doing a Survivor org? And I was like, no, I'm retired. And they're like, oh, that sounds like somebody who's been through it. I was like, yes, thank you so much. I can't find the comment I was thinking of, so I guess we're going to move on forever, and I'm never going to talk about it again. But something that I found super interesting in all of this, and you commented it too, is that Josh was labeled the dark horse.
Yeah, which is interesting because we have not kind of viewed him as a dark horse, but it's interesting that other players have it. Maybe kind of rethink of his trajectory in the game.
I really think people see that he's snaking his way through, but I think it's almost this perception thing of people see he's snaking his way through, but they're also kind of like, yeah, but I don't know if he could ever win. And they just like...
But they're saying there's a chance.
So you're saying there's a chance. I guess I see a lot of what Josh is doing. And speaking of which, Josh did maybe name tribes issue, but I'll get to that in a second. I think Josh is making a lot of good moves, but at the same time, he's not making a lot of moves that are his to claim. And in the end, I think that will hurt him if he doesn't start.
Hey, if he sits next to Abby or Delaram, he has a bunch of moves to
Yeah,
claim.
but everybody's going to try and sit. Well, honestly, at this point, you better. I feel like if you're. Hang on, let me do this math. So this is like the Nora conundrum, right? If we don't get rid of her now, she will be at the end, and that will be one of our spots.
Yeah.
So I think if you're Josh, potentially, maybe even you say to Santi, like, so you have Dane, Tim, Delaram, and Abby, and Angie. That's 5 at least. You say, look, or never mind. Hang on. I got to do this all over again. You have Dane, Tim, Josh, Santi. That's not. There's 8 players left. Oh my god, I'm so bad at math because all these
9.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, okay. Angie is who I'm forgetting.
Okay.
All the crossouts. So you have 5. You go to that 5 and you say, look, Delaram and Abby are going to take our spots at the end, and if we let them go this far, 2 of us won't get a spot in the final 3, and we're not going to vote for them. So we know who the winner is going to be. If you want to have a shot at making the end, work with me just for this round and let's get out one of them. Because I do think that it's this conundrum that we see in Survivor all the time where the GOAT makes it far enough that all of a sudden they're locked in. They're not going home. And you need to use an opportunity like Final 9, like Final 8 to get rid of the GOAT, or they're going – Final 7 onwards, they're untouchable. So you need to do something right now. That's what I'm.
That's not going to be able to happen this game.
No.
And so honestly, I think for Josh to pull off a dark horse victory, what he needs to do is he needs that like Final 8, Final 7. Not this episode, maybe in episode 2 for now. He needs to successfully get Sadie or Santi out of the game. I think that would be a great way to push him forward in the game. I think it's certainly gonna be harder than just coasting to the end because I think Josh has that ability to do as well. But I think he needs to. I think Josh is thinking about it as like, I'm in this alliance. This is a good alliance. I'm very safe here. I'm surrounded by these other targets. But I think at some point he needs to take aim at them himself.
And so let's go to the comments. Let's go to the fun fact of the episode, which is Josh says, I'm not 100% sure why the tribe was named Zachu, but I think, if I remember correctly, I think we wanted to make it like Zazu from The Lion King. So we did something similar. At the start of the game, we also wanted to do Mufasa, but Anders said no, and we settled on Chikasha. Apparently, we all love The Lion King, which is very funny.
Interesting.
Why do they love The Lion King so much?
Anders, no Mufasa tribe. I'm hurt.
I'm gonna name my tribe like Gus next time. Like
some horrible portmanteau of all your favorite Disney characters.
Some obscure Disney. Do you remember like the little rat in the Aristocrats who wears the sunglasses? I'm gonna name my tribe after that. I'm gonna look.
Wow. Yeah. Oh man, I've seen the Aristocats a lot, but I don't remember the name of the rat.
I know. Rat. Let's see what it is. His name is Roquefort.
Yeah, I think no host is going to catch you on that, so you're good to go. If somehow
I will say he's not wearing sunglasses. His eyes are just like black little circles, so in my head they were sunglasses.
Yeah, so when next season of Survivor New York, when you have these weirdly named tribes, double check your Disney wiki because there might be a reason for those names.
I did. We did recently name our tribes for season 5. Whenever that happens, we were ordering buffs, so we had to like pick the tribes like essentially light years ahead of time, and we're just sitting here being like, how many names have we used up that we can't use anymore? And the answer is a lot.
Can I tell you my favorite merge tribe name?
Yes.
So in the Survival Challenge 2018, you don't get to choose the tribe names. They're given to you, especially because the buffs and the logos all print out. And all the tribes are always animal themed. So the merged tribe was black for 2018 Survival Challenge. And it was like some Native American word for like goose or swan. And the word was MAGA, M-A-G-A. The tribe was absolutely horrible. Like, you can't name us that. And the host is like, the name does not mean what you mean it to. It's sticking. Deal with it. And so the MAGA tribe for the merge, and all the players were very unhappy, and I thought it was hilarious.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! That is so horrible. What if
Because I can
that
guarantee it was the last thing they were thinking of when they were choosing the name was like, what are the other connotations of this Native American word? And well, whoops.
Yeah, we made buffs for Survivor New York season 4 that are like orderable. And they were like, no merge tribe, and I was like, you guys didn't name your fucking merge tribe. You don't get to buy a merge tribe buff if you don't name the tribe. Like, that's just how it works. We asked you for a name and you never gave us one, so you don't get buffs for that tribe. That's how it works. Meanwhile, they didn't name their tribes either. They didn't name their merge tribe either, but that's because we made them go to bed at like midnight after staying up for like 18 hours, so it's fair.
There's one more thing about this challenge to talk about. Our new favorite trend, your favorite player Tim, always getting the clue at the immunity challenge.
Oh, this is what I saw. Thank you so much for that.
Anytime.
I saw somebody comment and say, should Doug have goaded Tim into going for...
Oh, yeah. That was my thought, too.
Did you write it down and maybe I read it here? Okay, that's what I read.
I wrote down my list like...
Yes, there it is. Should Doug have goaded... Okay, Stephen, take it away.
So Tim once
just
again...
another woman taking credit for a man's idea.
Hey, this is an equal partnership here. Once again, Tim gets a clue at the challenge in his little stack of cards that says, hey, there's an idol. And this one's actually pretty straightforward. Tim pretty sure knows where it is. It's on the stair landing, kind of tucked away, but it's going to be very obvious that you're going to grab it. You can't really do it secretly. And the question is, what's the pros and cons of getting something like this, right? The pro is you have an idol. Con, everyone knows you have an idol, and most likely now they're going to target you because of it. Now, the thing is, and Tim learns later in this episode that Doug has one of the idols too, but Doug at this point sees the clue. Doug knows that Tim has an idol, and so should Doug have said, hey, Tim, go get it? Because if Doug had done that, Tim would have had idol number 3, and Doug then would have known about all the idols in the game. Tim is in Doug's court, clearly, so Doug would have had proxy control over all the idols in the game, and Doug would not have any of the fallback of Tim having the idol, too, because Doug can either use Tim as a target, get Tim to play it proactively. I think it could have been a great little idol puppet for Doug to manipulate.
And, I think also, if you are Tim at this point, you've realized that the idol is hidden at the challenge. And the likelihood is that Sadie had that same clue, right? Because she did. We know this.
So is the exact same one as he found this episode saying, hey, or is it just a clue saying the idols?
It just says that the idols are at the challenges. Mm-hmm. But then you know that the next time you go to a challenge, there's probably going to be another clue, and you might not find it that time. Mm-hmm. And you could see whoa, Angie has an idol all of a sudden because you didn't act proactively, and now Angie already had a target on her back, so this isn't a detrimental thing to her, but it's detrimental to you because you can't vote her out until whenever she after she plays it. And this is all to say, I think that Doug should have tried to cover for Tim.
Yeah.
And gotten Tim the idol. I think that it would have been a smart move because part of this is I question how much Tim feels allied to Doug after the whole idol thing where he sees Sadie talking to him about it. Mm-hmm. And I think it would have been a great move for Tim to be back in Dane's pocket. Sorry, Tim to be back in Doug's pocket.
That's not even something I was thinking of, where Doug could provide a distraction, maybe he took the cards and threw them up in the air in front of people. It's look at this, and Tim snatches it real fast or something like that. That could have been a great thing, because oh man, knowing where the idols are and not knowing who therefore cannot have an idol is such power. When I played Real Foot, I found the idol. Blah, what a mess. But I was able to play saying everyone's what if someone has an idol? I'm yeah, what if they did, but we should vote that anyways. I know that I have the idol and therefore I don't care.
Yeah, it's such a powerful tool. And I think at the very least, it makes Tim feel kind of deluded in how much power he has, right? Because, Doug does have all that power. But if Tim gets the power, suddenly he thinks, oh, look at me, I have an idol, I'm very powerful. And then he can be sort of manipulated, right? Mm-hmm. You can vote Tim out because he trusts you so much. And, is that good for your game? You can argue yes or no if you betray somebody that hard. But if, Sadie wants to take out Tim, you just don't tell Tim that it's coming towards him. Mm-hmm. And things like that. So it gives you another layer of you become able to manipulate the person more and with more power. So I think overall, I really wish that Tim and Doug had tried to work something out to snatch this idol.
Yeah.
It would have been fun, like Mission Impossible.
Can I just say, I love the fact that Survivor Maryland is hiding the idols at challenges. I think that adds such an interesting layer. I love when the normal show does it too, but the fact that they're doing it consistently throughout the season, I think is a really cool thing to do.
Nobody's noticing it. That's, you know what I love about it though is I think that like, real Survivor does it for the element of danger, right? That, hey, this idol's not going to be here for long, so get it. But what's great about this is every time you go, it's on your mind. And it's almost like this idea of getting like inundated with like advertisements for something, right? Eventually, if you really want it, your brand's going to say, I have to go get it. So they're eventually going to crack, right? Because they're going to say, I need to get this idol. It's been here forever. And they're going to mess up.
Can I do a little idol rant real fast? So generally, I think that when the real show Survivor or just live reality games as well, I think idols and advantages should have a level of risk reward trade-off there. I think there's too easy to just say, I just want to give these goodies to my players and let them run wild. And you start saying like, wow, there's all these things running around. Players can't keep track. I think idols are amazing, but I think there definitely needs to be some sort of risk involved in them. And like just having like the show, I think has played out, the real TV show Survivor has played out just the normal, like, go run in the jungle and search for these idols. Yes, there's this trade-off of the social time and putting this threat on you, but when the game devolves and everyone's searching for idols anyways, it's like, well, why bother? But by putting it in the challenge, it adds such a level of like, do I want to publicly reveal to everyone that I have it? Do I want to like force the target on my back? Do I want to play on the edge now by claiming this publicly? I just think it adds such a nice dilemma to the idols where even like in Tim, like, I know where it is, I can get it, but I think the cost outweighs the benefit. I love forcing players to make that kind of trade-off versus like, I did how to go seek in the jungle. Look what I have. No one knows. Yay. It's like, eh.
Yeah, and it's part of why an advantage like Stephen Fishback jumping off the dock to go to the buoy to get the sort of extra vote or steal a vote works really well. And this is something that I think in general, when we talk about live reality games, all live reality games hosts, I think that the advantages in Survivor New York have greatly improved because part of our brain process is we go, what is a risk and what is the reward?
Yeah.
And so, one of my favorite advantages was imagined up by seasoned veteran Alex Horsenhausler, which is a vote doubler, where you double somebody else's vote. But they don't know, you can't, it's not that you can't tell them, but you could feasibly just double somebody's vote, and then there's an extra vote in the mix. But they can vote for you. Like, the reward is there, but the risk is there too. If you're going to try and make that move at some point. And this is all to say that, like, you want to think about how to give people advantages while also forcing them to be crafty.
I'm going to do a little bit of a rant. This is not about Survivor Maryland. I'm kind of watching another live reality game. I'm not going to name names. In the episode, they had players go to some sort of exile, and there they were handed essentially 2 full idols that could be combined as a super idol. But I'm just kind of like, I was like, oh my gosh, they just, like, if it was like useless super idol, I'm like, okay, sure, like I can understand it. But full idol, super idol, they're just handed like, oh my gosh. I'm like, can I play your game please for free idols? And it'd be horrifying to play against them. I'm just like, wow. It's just like, I love live reality games for letting us experiment and figure things out and try things. But I feel like, even though I think sometimes people want, like, live reality games, the hosts are like, we need to have a back to basics season. Sometimes we go too hog wild in what we hand out. So I think Survivor Maryland's hitting a nice happy median here with how they're hiding idols.
It's just like the Thanos glove of like you're adding like another idol into each spot, and then eventually you're just gonna be like, it's like, and then eventually Siri goes home. Yeah, it's like, it's done.
If Doug gets 3 idols, he can either idol himself 7, 6, and 5, or even with 2 idols, right? You talk about the nightmare situation of we'd see Sadie, Delaram, and Abby final 5 with Doug and Santi. Doug's just like, idol for Santi, idol for Doug, doesn't matter. We now take out Delaram or Abby, and life goes on.
That'd be really, and I think overall, like, this season is really entertaining and we're going to get to the point where things start kicking off, and I'm hoping it's next episode. But there's a chance that it's not going to be until like Angie Delaram and Abby are gone, you know? Like there's a chance that things are not going to kick off until all of the weak players on the outskirts, or even Tim is gone. Like they need to sort of do a purge. That would frustrate me if they needed to purge everybody and then start having.
Yeah, so we might not see the true end game begin until Final Four, Final Five, essentially, right?
Annoying, but yeah.
So I want to throw a theory out to you.
Yes.
I don't think Santi can win if he keeps doing what he's doing. I think Santi will lose the game sitting next to Sadie or Doug, no matter what.
I concur. I think that Santi is not doing enough. Doug is doing a lot. Santi is just letting Doug do a lot.
I think Santi has this perception of being a threat. And I agree that Santi should be someone people are wary of. But I love Doug's confessional where he and Santi are talking and they're like, yeah, we're fine going to end each other. And Doug's like, I'm especially fine going to end Santi because I think I beat him. And I think Doug is correct. I think if Santi sits next to Doug, Santi's game merged going forward has been I've hitched my carriage to Doug and he's taken me. Right? And I think people are going to be like, well, and people are going to be underwhelmed by that.
And I think Santi could very well get to the end and be, who's a good apt comparison to this? I'm trying to think of all the game players. I think he could be like, damn, there have been, I'm just thinking about every.
What archetype are you looking for?
Oh, you know what? Maybe like a Gavin, where like Gavin gets to the end and he's like, look, I play the game of Survivor. I'm here. And everyone's like, okay, Gavin, shut up. Like, nobody really cares about Gavin's gameplay because it wasn't as flashy as, Chris Underwood's, or wasn't as conniving.
Let's even go to something like Tommy versus DK Chillin.
I was thinking about that, but then DK Chillin is so flashy.
I know, but like... But I was just thinking like, man, you're right. We need to think of a better comparison.
It's got to be a comparison of like two guys where one is really rewarded for how he plays and the other is just absolutely decimated for how he plays. It could even be like a Russell and Mick in Samoa, where like Mick is called feckless and Russell is an asshole who almost wins. Like,
you've seen it. But it's just like I think the issue with what Santi's game is doing, I think what people are going to start picking up is Santi even verbalized, like, he's like, I need to lay low. I can't do a lot right now. I have eyes looking at me. I need to be worried. I think that's very fair. But I think Santi still needs to do one or two things this merge that's apart from Doug. Like, I think when Josh comes calling and Josh says, hey, we need to take out Sadie, Santi says, yes, I agree. Let's not tell Doug and do it.
Exactly.
Like if Santi does that and then sits then with Doug, then I think it's fair game, right? Because Santi says, "Hey, I knew I wanted to sit with Doug, but I need to define my game myself." And yes, while I did use Doug and I used Doug as a shield, I also was proactive in working not with Doug and other players to get my agenda done. That sells.
There needs to be a schism. There needs to be a separation so that Santi can remove himself from strictly Doug's game and create something for himself.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So I essentially think that Santi might be considered a threat, and that might make him think like, I can't do much right now. I need to be very careful. I need to work with the big dogs. But I think at the end of the day, he's going to be like, people are not going to look at his game very fondly because it's like, hey, you had a lot going for you, but what'd you do with it? You hitched a ride with Doug. Why would you do that?
And that's like the I think it could even be a final two, which would be really funny. And I bet if it's a final two, then Doug cuts Santi. Like I think that we are ramping up to a lot of situations where Doug does something to Santi that is like, this could have been completely avoidable if you had done anything, Santi. And I'm not saying that I think there's a lot of game left to play, and I'm not saying he hasn't done anything and will continue to do nothing, but if he doesn't do something, he will get reamed at Final Tribal Council.
So let's be a little perspective here. So give me the worst case scenario and best case scenario for what we could see next episode.
I think best case scenario would be a Sadie elimination or a Doug elimination, but I think Sadie's more likely. And I think worst case scenario would be losing Abby. or Delaram. Maybe losing Delaram because at least Delaram
Really?
is like making funny expressions. Well, because I think that like if you lose, I mean, for me emotionally, I would be so pissed if Angie went home. But I think just like overall game, losing Abby just means that like Delaram and Angie are next. Whereas losing Angie is like, okay, people are making big moves, but losing someone like Abby, I mean, I'm not claiming to be right in this, but I just think that like if we lose Abby, then it's like, oh, they're just taking out the strong women, and literally none of them are going to make the end. And there it goes.
Because I'm very different, right? Because like if we're being pitched, there's a stranglehold of Abby, Delaram, and Sadie. I think top tier blindside would be Sadie. I think if they weakened Sadie by taking out Abby or Delaram, I'd be fine with that. I think mid tier is if interesting would be if Tim goes home. If Sadie, because it sounds like Sadie is looking at Tim as the next target. If Tim or Dane are then cut off because of that. And I think I'd be sad to see if Angie go home. If people much like Ghost Island, the people that took out Malolo, took out Navidi and Desiree, then they continue on the Malolo train. I think I'd be disappointed if they then just took out Angie, saying, "Hey, she's a threat to win the game. People are gonna like her. She's the underdog. She needs to go now because she lost immunity." That would be kind of my worst case scenario.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, I just think that like honestly, I think losing Abby just means that it's like we're losing Angie next. Like losing Angie next is like, okay, it's been done, but like seeing Angie as like a dead man walking is like kind of more upsetting to me. Like, she doesn't get taken out because she's the best. She gets taken out because, we'll get her out at some point. Like, that's just like sad. Angie deserves some goddamn respect.
I mean, and like true earth shattering would be if Santi is blindsided. If Santi, Josh, or Doug go home, my gosh. Would not see that coming.
That. Oh man. And overall, I think what's interesting is we're in the final 9 now. I really haven't seen Dane be anything. No offense to Dane. Well, but I haven't seen Dane's out of everybody, Abby included, I haven't seen Dane or Abby's winner edit at all. And so I'm sitting here being like, what the hell is Dane going to do? Because I feel like he's not going to do it right. I hope all the best for Dane, but like, I don't know what the hell is going on. And I know that it's not going to make me happy no matter what happens.
Yeah. I think much like Amanda, I think Dane is playing a little too close to he's not. Well, did he reach out to Andrew this episode? Let me double check my notes. Like, did we see Dane and that's not how you spell Dane. Did we see Dane and Angie together? And then we saw Dane and Tim. We saw Josh and Dane. Yeah, I don't think we saw him with it. It's like I think when you, gosh, I'm still so like this idea of the villain Dane like pulling the strings. We get Doug doing that instead, which is just as good. But I think we might have an explosive Dane episode where he goes home, or maybe it's like not with a bang but with a whimper. I just don't know what we're gonna see from Dane, but
I bet Dane's gonna get blindsided, but like unintentionally. It's just gonna be because he's like, oh, okay, like we're voting out Abby, great, and then like gets voted out. He's like, oh,
or like right. Maybe, or he goes home doing an idol play.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just gonna be something where you're like, oh, there goes Dane. Okay, bye. Like, sorry, see you later.
Yeah, it's revenge for voting out Eric. How dare you, Dane?
Yeah, and I say this all with the understanding that I don't think any of these people are bad people or are boring people. I just think that this edit is showing one thing that's happening, and it seems like nothing else can or will happen.
So when do we call it a coronation edit for Doug? When do we say such a villainous thing?
I don't know. Maybe if Angie gets voted out and we talk to her and she's like, yeah, Doug is like, he just has such a great smile, like Morgan said. We're like, all right, well, there it is. Folks, you heard it here first.
Well, I don't know. I love Doug because Doug, nothing bad comes from him, but the way he wants to play the thing, and like the way he sets himself up, you're like, no, there's that little villain bone in him, kind of like getting him to do things. So he's like, I should just go talk to Morgan and try and just make plans with her. And there's like, why would you do that when you're voting her out? Like, what's the point? And he's like, well, I just think it would be fun to do. Like
exactly.
He's enjoying this game, and it's fun to watch.
Exactly. And that's what makes me laugh about Doug the most, is that Doug knows that he's doing stuff that's fucked up, but he's still gonna do it.
Yeah.
Don't worry. he'll be there.
I mean, let's be honest.
Just so
I
you know.
want to play like Doug. Like that sounds like the way I want to play Survivor.
Exactly. I really wish I could. I do want to be a villain. I've never gotten the chance to, but I
Yeah.
kind of want to one day.
I've
'cause
done
it seems
stupid
fun.
things, but not evil things in games.
Exactly. I don't want to do evil things. I want to be mean to people and survive.
In Survivor BC, there's these coins you can collect and buy stuff with. And at one point, I had stolen all the tribe's coins. It's like, I'll just go buy something frivolous. I'm like, no, but then they'll have no food. So I put most of them back. Then I got voted out.
Fucking
It
hilarious.
was a very bad round for me. I played terribly, and I got totally buried by a former tribe mate. They played great. I played terrible.
So fucking funny. So, in conclusion, what the hell is gonna happen? Like, what's going on?
I think we'll see another episode or so of players. I think we're gonna see Tim or I'm gonna put it back. I think it's Tim or Angie going to come next episode.
I agree. I agree. I think Tim is in a bad spot.
Yeah.
That's my biggest concern for him. Like Tim is in a bad spot.
Yeah. I don't know if Tim goes home because it's a like 5-4 vote or if Doug simply cuts his losses again and says, "Yep, I'm fine. Let's go on."
Yeah, and I think the other thing is like there's a season of Big Brother that has like the most unanimous votes or something crazy like that. And I really think it could even be BB22, but I don't think it is. And I think this is turning into that. And because that comes from the mentality of, I think I'm safe if I vote with the majority.
Yeah.
And that will just damage your brain.
Yeah.
And will.
And which, at the end of the day, you look back at the season and say that winner played fantastic, right?
Exactly,
that winner had a stranglehold of the game and was amazing because they were able to squelch any thought of resistance, and people always thought they were with them until they were voted out. And like that's always like it's amazing. It's great to look back on. The difficulty when you have a season like that, it's hard to make it as interesting and engaging when you're just like, oh my gosh, such and such is running the game. What can we do?
Exactly. So I guess next week we're just gonna see if it's more of the same. But I think no matter what, like
we'll have plenty to talk about.
Season. It's a fun, edited season. Anders is still doing a great job. It's just that like this is happening, and that's all I can say.
I mean, okay, Anders, there's one solution to this. Get a time machine, bring Feluke into the game, and all the problems will be solved.
Yeah, also, next week is when the election results are coming out in this year.
Woo! So can't wait for that chaos.
Wait for that. Awesome. Well, if we've got nothing else, this has been the Live Reality Games Podcast. I'm Naomi. That was Stephen. Tune in next week. Survivor Maryland airs Mondays at 7 p.m. We go live Friday or Saturday, depending on how we feel. And that's all you got to know. Right? Stephen, help me out here. That's all we got to know.
Looking forward to letting you all hear us pontificate about things we don't know enough about. And yeah, until next time.
Mazel tov. All right. Rock and roll. Good night, everyone.
Night.